Hey, turns out there was some ballot box stuffing happening in a mayoral race, and I think this was in Pennsylvania. Let's watch this. Dan Abrams. Look at him. He's not dyeing his hair. Good for you, Dan.
I was just thinking that.
Here we go.
Good. Looks good.
You know what? I liked him better with his hair dyed, but here we go.
I did too. I did.
Election fraud have been thrown around way too many times in the past few years without any serious evidence.
Has it? Because you can't throw it around on YouTube or they'll cancel you. So where was it being thrown around at? Okay.
Oh, you know what makes people extra feel like it's not a fraud? When you tell them they're not allowed to talk about it.
Yeah, yes. Yes. Okay, here we go.
Back up those claims. But tonight, an election for mayor has just been thrown out by a judge who concluded that fraud did impact a recent vote and ordered a new election. And it was based on absentee ballots. Happened in Bridgeport, Connecticut, where a state superior court judge has just ordered a new election between incumbent mayor Joe Ganim and his mayoral primary opponent, John Gomez, after Gomez successfully argued that he was the victim of absentee ballot fraud. Stunning video put out by the Gomez campaign appeared to show a Bridgeport city employee and local Democratic Party official walking up to a drop box in the early hours of the morning of September 5th and making multiple deposits of absentee ballots. You can see a woman who the Gomez campaign identifies as Bridgeport City Hall employee Wanda Jeter Patiki walking up to the drop box and placing multiple ballots inside. And a few seconds later, she comes back, does it again. The Gomez campaign posted this on social media as part of a 3-minute compilation showing irregularities in the vote. That woman was questioned during a court hearing challenging the election results and pleaded the fifth.
Were you paid for any of your work on the Ganim campaign? I would object at this point.
And it wasn't just her. The Gomez campaign played in court 9 different people making 24 drops of apparently multiple ballots into absentee ballot boxes. In his ruling, Connecticut State Superior Court Judge William Clark said he found the evidence from the Gomez campaign credible, said there was enough evidence to call the entire election into question. Quote, in this case, there is evidence of partisans taking possession and harvesting ballots to engage in bulk drops of the absentee ballots into drop boxes. The number of ballots at issue when considering the corroborating evidence of the video and documentary evidence brings the reliability of the primary into serious doubt. Judge Clark has ordered the two sides and city election officials to come together on a new date for a revote by November 17th, but there's all sorts of details there. This is a wild story.
It seems actually, I think I saw videotapes of ballot boxes being stuffed before. I can't say, I think I might get a strike on YouTube if I say what election that was for, but let me throw it over to Craig. Craig, didn't that happen? Didn't we see videotapes of, wasn't there some kind of movie that involved the Mule?
2,000 Mules.
2,000 Mules or something?
Dinesh D'Souza, yeah.
Yeah, Dinesh D'Souza, who was so close to being, his real name being Dinesh the douchebag. So I thought this was so Craig, correct me if I'm wrong. Mm-hmm. Is it allowed that you could, I thought you could ballot harvest. No?
It's legal in about 26 states. More than half the states, it's still legal to ballot harvest. So in other words, what that lady was doing might be illegal in Connecticut because they might have eliminated ballot harvesting, but it's legal in many other places where you can take multiple ballots to the ballot box for other people and put them in.
There's no limit. Not fraud. Yeah. There's election fraud. The laws just allow you to do to steal the election. That's my favorite thing I think I've ever heard.
So in some states, Craig, you can what they call ballot harvest.
Yeah.
And
you're living in one.
You can ballot harvest in California.
Yep.
So in this news report, they refer to ballot harvesting as ballot stuffing.
Yeah.
Right? Isn't that what he called it?
Oh, my God.
That's what they called it because there are some states where they've eliminated or it's illegal to ballot harvest. I've lived
in states. Is that a way around it or no?
Well, I mean, there's stipulations to the rules. It all depends because it goes county to county, state to state. I was in Nevada and ballot harvesting is still legal there, where I was in line to vote and somebody brought in 12 ballots to hand on in. The only change they made in this last election was they moved the ballot boxes into the ballot centers, the voting centers. So, I mean, this is what she is actually doing is legal in certain states. So,
wow.
Yeah.
And so, what's your prescription, Craig, for what are the countries that always get the highest marks for the integrity of their elections? How do they handle voting?
Yeah. Well, I was in 5 Latin American countries and observed their elections inside and out. And guess what, Jimmy? None of them had ballot boxes. None of them had absentee ballots. You had to vote on election day. You had to show up at your polling spot with ID. And all the ballot voting is done in the eyes and the purview of the public.
With ID? Are they racist?
Yes. Well, no, they're not. And that's kind of funny because in Nicaragua, there was one guy who kept asking me, they really don't let you vote without an ID. I'm like, yes, they do in California.
We don't want to be racist.
He goes, well, why don't they just make it easier to get an ID? And this is in a third world country in Nicaragua
that's a great,
where there's dirt
point.
Roads around. I mean, they don't have electricity and water in certain places, and you still have to have an ID to show up. So the best remedy for this, Jimmy, and it really is a shame because it dupes the progressives because they think it's about inclusivity. It makes it easier for people of color to vote and Spanish people to vote if they have these drop boxes out in the middle of nowhere. But the best remedy is to eliminate drop boxes altogether. The one problem with Dinesh D'Souza is that his solution was to put cameras on the drop boxes, which was just mind-blowing because now you're going to set up cameras everywhere and infringe on everybody's rights. No, the only solution to this problem is to eliminate drop boxes altogether.
The camera on my ATM.
Yeah, but we don't need the drop boxes, so the cameras. So I'm with you. I think I'm for all that. When I heard Craig talking about the countries and they get high marks for their election integrity. The countries that get the high marks for election integrity, they have voter ID. So if you can figure out how to vote and who to vote for, I think you should be able to figure out how to get an ID. And
or give a free one. Hey, whoever needs to vote, the government, why can't they? That's not in your taxes. They give you an ID.
Right.
Why are you paying anything? Usually it's because some governor's brother-in-law has a deal at the lamination. That's how New York was. You couldn't get it in person. You had to wait for it to be sent. Because Pataki's brother-in-law ran the lamination factory or whatever the hell.
It just does. It's like if you have your act together enough to figure out who to vote for and then figure out how to vote, you should definitely be able to have your act together enough to get an ID.
Yeah.
That seems like a lower threshold than figuring out how to vote and who to vote for, getting an ID. Because you need an ID for so many things. You can't, hey, I have to get an ID to get on a plane. Is that racist? Right? Am I wrong? I have to get...
Yes, it's very...
Yes, it is.
Until we have an under-the-skin international digital ID and tracking, it's not going to be fixed. And I'm glad you brought it up.
Jimmy, with absentee ballots, they would say that one of the reasons they should have it is because people who are handicapped or disabled, they can't go and vote. We need it for them. But when you would see places like Nicaragua and Colombia, people would show up who are disabled and they would let them cut the line. I was in Nicaragua and I was in Honduras and I seen it both times, people carrying a wheelchair upstairs for these people to vote. It's very sacred to them. And the thing that's really amazing that in these countries, they understand the practices that we point out, that we say that we need for people who are disenfranchised from voted, that we need to implement these laws. They understand in these countries that's the easiest way for the ruling class to cheat an election. If you can get past one person, one vote, you can do whatever you need to do. So people who are the grassroots in the states, when they push for these laws because they're pushing for inclusivity, they're actually stabbing themselves right in the neck and keeping themselves away from winning any type of election for the grassroots.
Another thing that's important, Craig, correct me if I'm wrong, is that where you vote should be where your vote is counted. And that's not necessarily how it works in the United States, right?
Not at all. And I have the 6 laws that I made when I go and I speak at election events. And number 5 is one of the most important ones. Where it's counted, it should be counted where it's cast. In other words, where that vote is cast, that's where it should be counted.
And right now, how do they do it?
Well, in some places, depending on where it's at, they'll take the votes to another place to be tabulated, like in California.
Let's say
and
if it's an electronic voting system, did they take it on a thumb drive? Is that what they do?
Sometimes they'll take it in a thumb drive. Sometimes they'll take the ballots over to another place to have the ballots counted electronically. In LA County, for instance, they'll take the ballots and they'll take them to the counting center and they'll run them through the machines, and then they'll get a count over there.
So that's not good. You're saying
it's very bad.
You're saying that's very bad.
Well, think about it, Jimmy. Once it gets out of the room, where could they go? It's nobody's following them. There's no chain of custody. And you know, they try to say that, well, we have a chain of custody. No, chain of custody in these other countries is in the purview of the citizens, not some company that's keeping track of your ballot. Why are you going to trust them? You don't know what they're going to do.
Okay, wait. So this sounds good, this Nicaragua thing, but what are their super PACs like?
You remember Tim Canova had video of them taking ballots like in a rider truck, in a rental truck, in a U-Haul, and then taking it out of there and putting it in the trunks of cars. And there's no chain of custody on that. There's no nothing. And of course, because he was going against the establishment, nobody in the establishment did anything about that. So
well, otherwise, how will I move up in the establishment?
That's right. Yeah. That's exactly right. Yeah. Oh, by the way, Elon Musk tweeted about it. He said, judge orders new election in Connecticut town after surveillance video shows ballot stuffing in drop boxes. That this happened here is beyond reasonable doubt. The only question is, how common is it?
Wait till Elon finds out it's legal in half the states.
Yeah. So how common is it? Well, it's legal in California.
It's not even a crime.
California's the biggest state in the union. Am I wrong?
Biggest economy in the union, right?
Do you know? I think we have like I think we have like the economy of California is bigger than the economy of Russia. Did you know that? And we have like 39 million people in California. I think. How many people live in Tokyo? 39 million, I'm pretty sure, or maybe 37 in that one town, in the metropolitan area.
And it's still
right. In where? Tokyo? But what about the metropolitan area?
It's still not as dense as Gaza.
You know, Jimmy, too, as well. The software they use to count these ballots, they're proprietary software for most of the ballots that are counted in the United States. In other words, the citizens don't even have a right to look inside the machine and see the software that's counting your ballot.
Yes.
What's it called again? The place that they got to do it, like a dark something or.
Oh, to do the counting?
Yeah, remember the name was like something like, come on, man.
Oh, really? I don't remember.
Yeah, we were laughing about it. It was like.
Hey, Siri, what's the population of Tokyo metropolitan area?
2016, the population of the greater Tokyo area was 37,900,000.
37 million. Hey, Siri, what's the population of California? Siri. Hey, Siri, what's the population of California? 39,500,000. Sometimes she talks, sometimes she gets shy. Hey, we're doing stand-up comedy in Covina, California, Burbank, California, the day after Thanksgiving, Oxnard, California, Venice, California, Palmdale, California, lots of places in the Southland. Omaha, Nebraska. We're going to be in Omaha. We're going to be in Des Moines, Milwaukee, Lansing, Bend, Oregon, Portland, Oregon, and Seattle, Washington. Plus, we're going to be in Boston, the Wilbur Theater in Boston. See you there.